Cities are irrational, but they're very beautiful. They truly are our greatest invention. Like a cosmic ballet, they exhibit organized complexity. However, this is only half the story. There's a chaotic balance at play between two opposing forces that heavily influence our cities. I'm Pablo Orozco, and I'm going to talk to you today about Plangineering. Now, I didn't make that up. It's a semi-real life profession that I find myself in, where I'm both a planner and an engineer. However, I believe that Plangineering can be so much more. I believe we can use it to create great cities by combining art with science, creativity with, believe it or not, bureaucracy, and especially logic and emotion. Cities have been around for a long time, but they still provide the basic habitat where humans can come together and share experiences and ideas from the most sacred to the most mundane. However, humans are super complicated, and so this gets reflected in our cities. And so we end up with cities that are either noisy, overcrowded, congested, unaffordable. But why do our cities do this to us? Well, the answer is that it's actually the natural state of cities that brings together people and has them share power and resources and space. And so this creates a struggle between our logical brain and our emotional heart. And so like two opposing forces, logic and emotion plead their case as city builders. And they both have good arguments, but we need to make a decision so eventually one wins. But when we do this, we end up with results that are either unintended or completely the opposite of what we want. And so in a bid to create solutions, we find more problems. One of my favorite ones is Induced Demand, where we logically add more roads and more lanes in order to reduce congestion. But we actually find that we increase congestion by doing this. Now this makes no sense, but we see it all in so many cities around North America. Or we end up with cities where we actually overprivilege the wealthy and the affluent. Our good-hearted nature believes that if we provide good free transit, we'll be helping those who need it the most. But the truth is, if we don't do anything else other than that, these areas around good free transit become the most unaffordable. So who are we actually helping? Or we end up with cities where land use planning, where we choose to live, work, and play, is done completely separate from transportation planning, so how we move around. And so we do this completely separate, or we kind of try to jimmy rig it at the end, but it doesn't matter how we do it, because the end result is misalignment. And so one of my favorite quotes is by Oscar Wilde, who once wrote that the benefits of emotions is that they lead us astray, but the benefits of science is that they lack emotions. Now, having said that, which path do we take, and when do we take each? But why don't we just ask a different question? Can't we combine these two things to create our own path? Well, enter Plangineering, which is the city building equivalent of Kirk and Spock, because it embodies Kirk's willingness to act on his emotions, but it keeps Spock's logical, disciplined mind. In the series, when they go off on their own, they get into all sorts of trouble, but when they work together, they get things done, and they make the bad guys pay. But it's actually in the diversity of experience and ideas that logic and emotion thrive. And this is something that's very important because this is something that cities not only possess, but they help to create. And so if we can capture these two things, maybe we can create better cities for ourselves. So what do we do here in Edmonton? Well, going back to Star Trek, because I'm a big nerd, they have a prime directive, which is a policy document that guides how they're supposed to explore the galaxy. So let's do something similar here. Except we won't call it that, we'll call it the city plan. And instead of about talking about the galaxy, we'll be talking about Edmonton. And so the city plan will really talk about, enable and support the decisions that people make when they come here in Edmonton, like where to live, work, and play, so land use planning, and how to move around, so transportation planning. And this is very important because these are two things that people use both their logic and their emotions to make these decisions. But we really need to break free from what we've done in the past. We can't have one transportation plan and then one land use plan and then kind of say, just refer to each other. We need to do our best to write one city plan. So how do we do this? Well, let's bring back Plangineering. It says, use the two forces that got you here, except combine them. And so as part of the city plan, the logical approach that we're taking is using computer models to simulate future outcomes and then write our policies around that. That way we can build some kind of scientific backing into it. But models can only assign a numerical value to experiences. They can't really capture the emotional responses that people want to have as a city. But you know who doesn't lack emotions? Well, individuals, me and you, the public. Now, if you don't believe me, just ask yourselves how many times you've thought that city administration was a bunch of goofs who had no idea what they were doing. And maybe Councilor Knack can back me up, like he probably hears that a lot. Of course, I'm kidding, I'm exaggerating, but it does show that we need to capture these very real emotional responses and experiences that people want to have. So the city plan is doing a lot of public engagement to do exactly just that. And so we'll bring the logical and the emotional approach together and we'll put something together. Um, and we'll get a result. But that result won't be perfect. But please don't weep, don't cry. There's no such thing as a perfect city. This isn't a fairy tale where we give you three options and you pick the one that's just right. But by combining logic and emotion and plangineering a city, maybe we can create a better ending to our story. And then we can deliver the policies in the city plan that are required to create the community that people have told us that they want. One where they can live, one where they can thrive, where they can belong, one where they have access to what they need, one where we can preserve the things that matter as we continue to create new ideas and experiences. And so by combining a diverse set of emotions, but guiding them through logical thinking, that is the essence of plangineering a city. But the city plan will only get us so far. The rest really depends on decisions that we all make. And so I'll leave you with a final thought. With all the possible future cities available, which ones can we help to create? One led by logic, one led by emotion, or can we combine both to better write a future for Edmonton? Thank you.